Yes, yes, so you are here in the dark waters and we bring you a phenomenal interview. Many of you know and understand that the spiritual realm itself is actually affected by our decisions. Yes, yes, good, good. You know that the decisions that you make in life can affect the spiritual realm and that the spiritual realm itself can affect you. But this interview here, this is not for children. This is a pulled pork sandwich full of meat for you. And it is perfect for those of you who like to swim deep in the dark waters. Without any further ado, here is your interview.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only Dark Waters. James Williams here with a phenomenal interview. And let me tell you guys something. So, I deal with people throughout the whole paranormal industry. And typically, the paranormal industry is just really a bunch of regular guys who decided that they were going to start talking about the paranormal. Some people take off and become popular. Some people just kind of meander along and fall off to the wayside, right? 200 interviews all over the world. I have only had two or three great conversations like the conversation I had with Avi, just in general on that level of doing interviews. And I'm very excited for him to speak to the Dark Waters family. He's been a member of the family for quite a while. And you'll be amazed at, the type of knowledge that we as a group have. And to be honest with you, like all my paranormal education really comes from the people who I speak to and listen to because I'm pulling information from you guys and then giving you information as well. And that's how we end up with the most phenomenal, amazing stories on the internet. With that being said, I'm just going to introduce you guys my friend Avi, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience. How's it going today, brother?
Beautiful day, man. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to have you on after our phone conversation, and I think I've expressed to people how many phone calls I take. In my mind, there's like I have tribes of people that I just gel with, and then there's these sub tribes, and then there's these marauders and invaders that come after me. And just during our conversation, I realized immediately that we are part of the same tribe, and then I started introducing you to other tribe members. And I wanted to have you on because I thought that the information that you were sharing was so outstanding that everybody needed to know it. So before we even get rolling, bro, whichever direction you want to go in the conversation, feel comfortable and go. I mean, if you want to like take people on like the top of the water and swim, or if you want to dive deep, we can go any direction you want to go. I'm comfortable with that. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, brother. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and let's get this ball rolling.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm 39 years old. I live in Orange County, California, Southern California, basically about an hour north of San Diego. And I was born in South Iran. And the reason some of the Persians may say South is because it's completely different than North. Geographically and culturally, it's completely different. How different? It would be different just as much as New York downtown different than Texas country. That's how different it is. And great grandfather was a horse breeder. He was into stallions. He bred horse for military, for the sheiks. And then after the industrial revolution, grandfather got into trucking and being a mechanic. And my dad, which one of the best mechanics I know, not having technological, like computer experience with machines, is one of the best I know in terms of marine and land, heavy duty aircrafts, helicopters, and then by birth I'm kind of a mechanic and a road racer because that's just a passion.
Right.
And I think it's our artistic expression instead of like some people equate it with ego and whatnot, but it's our artistic expression, an expensive one and a very dangerous one. But in the eye of the hurricane, that's where it's very zen. And so right around when I was 12 years old, we moved to Israel. And so I lived in Tel Aviv. I kind of, my adult years, I grew up in Tel Aviv until the age of 21 when I came first time to US. Went a couple of times back and forth, and finally, decided to stay because although I was a mechanic, as far as my daytime job working with my family, but got into art because I always been like loved artists, like especially in industrial design. And the goal was to go to Pasadena Art Center to become, a car designer. But then, debts that would come from that and the corporate environment, there was too many flags against it. So I decided to just roll and see, hey, can we just go on a freestyle and non-corporate life and make it? And it's been a journey, but most importantly, it's been a learning experience as a soul than as a person in the corporate world where money dictates everything. And now I live in USA, and this has been, and I've been raised in a way where when you go, it's like whether you're on a football or soccer team, when you go to a team, you leave the old jersey at home and you play 100% for the new team. Otherwise, don't show up.
Right. That's how it should be.
um that's how it should be, exactly, because there's a common ground in every society that you have to follow. And the bankers and the controllers feed off of this division, where kids are not being raised right. And so I think the biggest issue in this world is always people's fault, and not respecting family and the common goal of a certain society, um, without knowing what are the implications, like what we experience right now in the country, as you know. So, and that's about it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, during our conversation, you went into a lot of the things that happened when you were actually living in southern Iran, and I would like for you to kind of start off by explaining the difference. You touched on the difference between being from southern Iran and people from northern Iran, but dive into that a little bit, and then talk a little bit about the things that you and your family saw in your childhood while
Okay.
you were there.
Yeah, sounds good. First of all, I have a very good memory in terms of and also like sometimes when I'm talking to people and they need help in terms of like, we'll get into the whole spiritual aspect of this matter. And then every time I heard any of the encounters through any radio, I always thought to myself, I'm like, man, this is a problem that needs to be solved. And, shooting at it and chasing it or running away from it, it's not going to solve it. Basically, when you have these paranormal encounters, they're omen of what's to come, and or telling you you're in the wrong place, wrong time. Because I always have that argument with my dad. Is like, man, you want to be the god of your life, but you always, like, at the first idea that comes to your mind, you just shoot for it. It's like, this is not how it's done. You got to be calm, collective, ask for direction, and literally, like, you know with a loud voice with yourself, ask the universe, the god within, force, whatever you want to call it, um, for a definite direction, and wait for the direction, and it will come. And whether it's going to be right or wrong, if it's wrong, then there's going to be a learning experience through it. If it's going to be right, it's a big advancement in your life. But the difference between, southern Iran and northern Iran, the southerners were the people who kept the first of all, these are the people who the empire rose from. And I think the first capital city of the empire was Susa, which is called Shush-Danyal. And then there is the city of Shushtar. There is Masjid Suleiman, was the first place where oil was pumped out by the British.
Yep.
My grandfather from the mother's side was actually the foreman of that railroad that helped the British to you know uh, plant the railroad. And now it's just a desolate countryside village, and I love those places because they're so simple and so raw. And the culture of the South is very labor oriented. There aren't any bankers, any lawyers, not many doctors, especially definitely no tech people. That's definitely not their habitat. But when you go to like Tehran, Tehran is a very crowded place. It has some neighborhoods that they're more expensive than some of the homes in Beverly Hills. Um, it geographically is sitting 5,500 feet above sea level. It has perfect four seasons. You have a mountain that you can ski any time of the year. Um, and so the culture is so different in terms of like the South being labor oriented, working at the oil fields. Um, they're mechanics, they love V8s and motorcycles, racing, hunting, fishing. um
So
I
basically, just
personally
like
have
America.
straight up, I mean, it's like humans, we kind of like we hunters in by nature. And we love the excitement of the fish on the line. And some of the people that don't like certain things is because they never experience it with the right people at the right time. Otherwise they'll fall in love with it. Also about fishing and hunting. A lot of the time you got to be, for me, the most important thing in life is the how to move without incurring any negative karma. It's so hard and so sensitive, to move around life and without incurring any karma. And it all comes down to intention, your needs, your desires, and all of those things. And so hunting, I mean, I hunted when I was a child, and I quit it at one point because there was no need to. As soon as you put me in a situation where I have to hunt, I'll hunt, and I'm not gonna, I know how to do it spiritually and mentally and physically. And sometimes when you out in the ocean and fishing, half of my fishing trips they end up in hooking myself up. Um, and then that's like an omen, like, hey, you're not exactly supposed to be doing this right now because you don't need it. Your intention is fun and not as like necessity for survivor.
For
And
survival.
that,
Yep.
yeah, if
And I
it's a
think that
necessity
really does dictate a lot of fishing and
for
hunting. You know what I'm saying? It really
Yeah, and
does.
that's what some of the hunters out there that I heard a lot of I've heard many encounters, and a lot of them they're just in the wrong place and wrong time playing God. Like some of these creatures are on a journey of being a soul and paying their dues and their debt, or they're getting ready for what's to come. And when you act out of like fun and interest, and whether you want to take this or ignore it, that's between them and God. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that doesn't come from the legislative law, that comes from natural law. Everything we touch and see in any country, especially in USA, it comes from natural law into the private side, and from the private side expanded into the public for the greater good, which is the mob rule, right? Democracy is mob rule. And so I personally, we Southerners don't get along with the Northerners. We don't like them. We don't, in general, like in terms of culture, we're different. But they never let them marry. And we're the Bakhtiari tribe. We're like one of the original bloods of the Persian Empire, who actually it goes back to some 5,000 years ago. And you'll be surprised that Iran was a melting pot, since when Cyrus the Great took, almost most of the all of Asia and some
Hmm.
part of Europe, and we got mixed up, and a lot of people don't know. I mean, the media shows whatever they want to show, but when you go to Iran, you got pale gray eye, blue eye, green eye, blondes, all the way to jet black, blacks, which is on the Persian Gulf side. So it's funny, by the Caspian Sea, you will mostly get the pale blue-eyed people in variations, and you get the jet black and everything in between. Everything in between. So it's a
Let
very
me ask you
diverse
this
country.
question: Do you think the reason why, like in Southern Iran, the reason why, like you had those paranormal encounters, your mother had encounters, your family members had encounters, is because it's that the segment of the society that's more grounded and like back to the old ways. So they're not concerned about having a tech job, running from building to building. They're actually living their lives. They're still living off the land, and so they're still open to the spiritual aspects of things that's going on. Do you think that plays a
Yeah,
role into why you guys had some of those encounters? Like for example, the
Yeah.
encounter that you had in the glass room at the house, like that blew my mind, bro. That was crazy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I mean, my most of my life I had tons of issues because of the post traumatic disorder that caused. And listening to these encounters made me realize, like, holy crap, that was a big post traumatic disorder situation, because I literally saw my soul coming out of my eyes because I was so scared. And then on top of that, I panicked more because I was like, holy shit, you panicking and you're dying, and you're dying from panic, you're having a heart attack from fear. Everything you heard is actually true, it happens, and this is how it feels. And so I think the reason that happens to that part of society, it has to do with um having a spiritual um potential, I say. People with bigger spiritual potential are more targeted by these beings, and that goes into the ancestral bloodline and the ways of living and whatnot. Some of the more shallow, math oriented souls who are so reductionist and in action. And I don't mean like something some people say, hey, I'm this and that. It's like, say what you wish, but I'm just gonna watch your actions and it's gonna tell me who you are. So as far as my encounter, that happened when I was like 9 years old. Um, this was a house that was in southern Iran, and this was a huge house. It was it's like a 5 bedroom, but smaller bedrooms, but just a vast open house with front yard, backyard, and this was on the corner. And when we moved in that house, prior to me going to see the house, my cousin and my mom, they went to see the house, and there was a jet black cat that jumped out of the window of the kitchen where you serve the food and ran away. And they didn't think much of it, and obviously we moved in. For some time, nothing was happening, but my sister started having problems with the light being turned on and off. And I think this whole situation started very, very low and slow, and started amping up, because this creature or whatever this was knew that a sudden thing could cause a heart attack or somebody losing their mind. And one thing about the spiritual world, they understand natural law and karma, and so, which is cause and effect basically. And so after that, my sisters started complaining about this. And my dad, he's a person that doesn't believe in these things, and he doesn't even acknowledge it, and he never had any encounters or whatnot. But me, my moms, my brothers, we're 5 kids. I'm the middle one. The middle son, and 2 sisters ahead of me, older than me. And so the whole thing started amping up. And one night, my sisters, we had a big party where we had tons of dishes, like 150, 200 pieces of dishes that needed to be washed. And by midnight, my sisters finished washing everything, I remember. And then they go to their bed, and my mom screams, why did you guys didn't wash the dishes? And the dishes were a mess, as if like it was worse than our party. And so this, we already knew about some of these spiritual encounters and whatnot, these paranormal encounters, but we couldn't believe it that it's happening in this house. And some of the neighbors had kind of felt iffy about this house, but didn't tell us much, because they didn't want to sound crazy. And my encounter was, I kind of asked for it. I was like, how you sometimes of something, but you kind of don't believe it, and you're like, hey,
See it,
if I
I
don't
won't
see it,
believe it.
yep,
Right.
yep, I need 100% proof. And so one time we had a dog that we throughout our lives we had many dogs, and in Iran, most of the dogs that come to Iran, these are pure breds from Germany, and they're always like bloodline of champions and whatnot. So our dog was half German Shepherd, half Doberman, and he was a giant. And we fed him raw meat, raw food, especially chicken legs, And at 7 or 9 months old, he was about 120 pounds, and he was a shaggy Rottweiler looking thing. It was for security, and he knew he's not supposed to come in the house ever. Sometimes this dog would break the chain and come in the house and chase something against the wall, as if someone is have their back against the wall and trying to like get rid of this dog. This dog was just barking viciously, like he wanted to bite something, but there was nothing. And we were like, "Ooh, that's weird." And so we put him back in his place and put the chain on, and it was a long chain, so he could roam around in the backyard. And one time I was feeding him, throwing him chicken legs, and he would jumping and catching him in the air. And then I looked on the over the roof. Somebody was looking at me, and he kind of hit, and he just like as if it was a flash that I see that, like, was that real? I It was real, but at the same time, like, this shape wasn't something I was as a human being I have it registered. So I was like, forget it. So long story short, I go forward in time. There was a day that was like around noon 1 p.m. Sun was beating hard, and average temperature in those regions at regular temperature in summertime is about 120 degrees. And I had a Mongoose BMX. I was washing it with detergent, and the detergent was in a packet of a paper packet. And when I finished pouring it over the bicycle in the bath, I remember telling myself that paper gonna get wet, the detergent gonna get ruined, or your mom gonna talk crap that you don't need to hear. So I put it on the shelf behind me, and then I turn around, and it's again right in front of me. I just prayed that there's two of these, and I look back, it wasn't there. So kind of like took it and put it in front of me right when I was doing it, and I was all alone at home. So I picked up the bicycle, I ran outside, I sat in the scorching heat until my mom arrived, and I told her what happened. Obviously, they don't acknowledge that when you're a kid because they don't want to cause too much,
Trauma. They don't want to
yeah,
traumatize you.
they don't, yep, they don't want to elevate the whole drama. And so then we decided to move out of that house. And because in between these encounters, we had guests that's been bothered badly. I mean, one of my uncle and his co-pilot from the Iran and Iraq war. These guys served 2,500 hours of combat flights in the Chinook, and they came to visit. And in the morning he wakes up, he looks all tired and didn't get enough baggy eyes. And when we started talking about some of the paranormal stuff, and then he was asking like, hey, I don't want to sound crazy, but last night was something was messing with me. It was messing with me, and I could see it is running out of the door and keep playing with my feet and my hair. And so we're like, yeah, this is something going on in this house, and we can't put our finger on it, what it is. And so time goes by. We go to the north to visit some family, and for a month the house was empty. And we had one of our friends to stay at the house to keep the dog fed and just watch the house so nobody comes stealing anything. And so this man didn't last 8 hours. He told my parents, hey, I'm sorry, I'm gonna call one of the because he worked in a paint company. They produce paint. He's like, I'm gonna call one of the guys, one of the janitors, and one of the night security guys to come and stay instead of me, because something going on in this house. And especially in the yard in the back, there's like a party, like a 200 people party. And I don't even see anything, and it's just like I'm losing my mind. I gotta leave. So he brings the guy, and the guy stays. The guys couldn't last 2 hours. He runs to the company, gets his welding machine, comes, welds the biggest lock you can find, and he's like, hey, nobody gonna steal the house, nobody get in the house, but I can't stay there.
He
So
said, I'm not putting myself through that, huh?
oh yeah, he was like, hey, I don't feel safe, I don't think I'm gonna last through the night. I mean, there's creatures in there, like, and so we're like, okay. So we come back and we started moving. We thought about moving, and we had to put the house together. We had to box everything. So as the house was getting cleaned up and packed, we were staying at my mom's. we were sleeping in my mom's room because that was the biggest room. And so there was one bed, like those military beds, that I slept on it. Everybody else slept on the floor. And obviously there was an AC that was running at night. And so I think it was around like 3 a.m. Something wakes me up. And then I look, I see, it's my dog. It looks he, between him and a juvenile Bigfoot, that's what it looked like. Shaggy hair, standing on his feet, and I'm in between. I was sleeping on amnesia, and I'm just like, I told him, "Hey, Leon, you're not supposed to be here." And he slapped me so hard, he almost broke my jaw, and that made me wake up. That okay, this is not a dream. This is not tripping. This is real. And I checked the AC sound. I checked the smell of the room, and that he's standing right in front of me and looking at me and telling me, this is my bed. You're not supposed to be sleeping here. And so immediately I took my cupboard, drop it by the door, pull it over me, and started sweating bullets and getting into the whole panic mode that I'm having a heart attack and my soul is coming out of my. That's what I saw, like a tunnel vision in through my eyes, and my soul was literally coming out of my eyes, and my heartbeat was so fast that I almost had a heart attack. And I still have irregular heartbeats because of that, the amount of adrenaline that was rushing through me that night. And time stopped them. Between 3 to 5:30. I think my dad woke up to go to work, and there was one of the marbles on the floor was loose. And so when my dad woke up, and I was lost in time, I didn't know what's 5 minutes, what's 2 hours, but apparently about 2.5 hours passed, and I'm completely soaked in sweat. And in the cover, and I just didn't have the guts to move the cover to see what just stepped next to my head, and move, and the marble made a sound, and that made me go into another panic mode. And at some point, I was like, I calmed down. I kind of like, I actually get acclimated to trauma or harsh situation pretty quickly. So I was like, hey, do or die, you just got to take the cover off eventually. Took the cover off and realized that's my dad actually went to shower for the 5:30 a.m. wake up. And I told my parents the next day, hey, I'm not playing. I mean, they knew I was a pretty logical, super straight shooter kid since I was a child. Told them, hey, last night I saw Leon standing on his 2 feet. He slapped me so hard I almost broke my jaw. And I double checked that that's what it is. And this is what I saw, what was messing with us all along. And so, and my parents, and I think the whole issue that came from the whole problem that we had this issue is because my dad made the wrong decision to take that job and move in that house. Because when you take matters in your own hands and you don't have a spiritual direction, and you play the God in your life, you're gonna arrive in places where these creatures gonna have access to you, and they're gonna terrorize you. And then once we decided to move, one of my brother's friends is like, hey, you guys moving? He's like, yep. There's a creature in there really like messing with everybody. And he's like, hey, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to sound crazy, but my sister actually lived here before you guys. And in the greenhouse, like these homes have greenhouses, it's a big tall ceiling room with a glass top where you can create your little tropical forest. Because in that region, due to the oil fields, and the gas and the natural gas that leaking from some of the areas, the air is not super clean. So these greenhouses in the house actually are created to create like clean air for you inside the house. So his sister was pregnant and saw the same creature I saw, the hairy creature, and she dropped her kid. And that kid never survived, actually.
Baron, where you at, man? Baron, I know you hear me talking to you. Baron, Baron.
Why are you calling my name
Baron.
as if I am a child? What do you want with me, James? I am trying to get these people safely across the Bigfoot Island. What the hell do you want?
First of all, man, why are you answering my cell phone?
Because it was ringing, that is why I'm answering it.
And second of all, why did you shrink this
Because
man's
he's
penis?
a fool.
Man, I'm listening to what you put out last night, man. You talking about this man left testicle gonna have pain?
Yes.
What are you doing to people?
Silence and listen to me. I have been around since they were real trolls. Yes, I've crossed many bridges where they climbed from under and tried to grab me. There is no way that I am going to let a piece of his child play games with me. Do you understand? That is why I did what I did.
Listen, no, I ain't mad at you. I'm just saying that shit was funny, but man, you can't just be running around chopping people's heads off and changing their
I do as I please.
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? You can't do that shit, man.
Nothing is wrong with me.
2020.
Yes, I can.
Motherfuckers is pissed off because of the Supreme Court right now, and you want to change a man's
You
gender?
are talking too much. I have other things to do. What is wrong with you?
Come on, man. I need you to bring it down a level, bro. I appreciate. No, don't get me wrong. I appreciate you looking out for your boy, but I need you to bring it down a few notches, man. You fucking wildin', bro. Like you wild.
Let me explain something to you. We are on a mission to scare 1 billion people. We do not have time to play games with trolls. So if they decide to troll the two of us, yes, I will shrink their penises. Yes, I will turn them into women. Yes, that is what is going to happen to them when they mess with me. And if he continues to play games, I will do again what I did to him last night. Calling him at 3 o'clock in the morning, blowing his phone up, leaving curses on his voicemail. So, all I say to you, James, is you do your part and let me do mine. Do not chastise me in front of all of these people as if you are my father. I have been here before you, long before you were born. Do you understand me?
Yo, Barrett, I'm just trying to say to you, man, you be fucking wildin', man. You do realize you got some serious anger issues, right? Like, you got eons, decades of fucking anger issues. You need to work on that shit, man. You need to love yourself, man. Forgive yourself for all the crazy shit you done did, because clearly this shit is out of hand for you. You are shrinking people's penises and turning them into women in front of everybody. That's all I'm saying, Barry, man. I just need you to chill, bro. That's all I'm saying, bro. Peace. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, bro. Peace. Me and you
do not know the definition of peace. You are nothing but a petulant child. Get back to work.